and the way that you work together I found really, really inspiring and exciting. So can you talk about when you brought this to Craig and how the story had to change?
Yes, so as we said, we had written and sold many screenplays that did not get made before this. And one of those was a Chippendales movie that we were working on in Craig's house. We were outlining it, we had written the whole thing many times, we had posted notes, moving scenes, and that film was in pre-production and did not get made, which is a normal course for most movies that writers do. And then we had written this film and kind of like mentioned it to him, and he was like, ooh, he bought into GameStop and lost money, so he was interested. And in terms of our process, we iterate. So we just write many, many, many drafts and versions of this. And when Craig cast this movie, when he cast Pete Davidson, we ended up rewriting that role in a very big way, which...
Oh yeah, it's important to us to say that of all the people you see on screen, Kevin is the biggest departure from the real person. We got to know Kevin Gill purely through his social media, and he is hilarious, very smart, clever, just cool, hardworking guy. And it was a very small role when we first wrote the first draft of the movie. Keith Gill, you have to imagine who he's talking to. He's a very private person, but there's a little bit that we can glean here and there on the public record. And so Kevin was we know Kevin is a great runner the way Keith was. And we imagined them having some conversations about what was happening, about the crazy story that was unfolding. When Pete stepped into the role, with Craig's guidance, that character really changed a lot and departed a lot from its source material, and Pete really made it his own.
So I know that when you guys were working with Craig on this, sort of right before Keith was going in front of Congress for these hearings, how did that change what you guys had already written? Because it's the third act of the film where everything is leading up to this really emotional, exciting moment.
Yeah, I mean, we thought of this film like a sports movie when we were structuring it, and the hearings kind of became this like championship game where our main player, Keith Gill, is going to face off against everyone. And so we kind of structured the whole third act around the hearings. And also around this sort of metaphor of running with your dick out, which is inspired by a real life. Kevin Gill ran naked at Stonehill in lightning. We found this little article about it and sat Craig down, and we were like, this would be great, because the thing about Pete Davidson. And he was like, no, what's the thing about Pete Davidson? And we were like, this thing. Anyway, and so we ended up then creating this whole third act metaphor, and that kind of built that final scene you saw as a payoff to that.
I